Another problem. Yep, I think that should be it. Let us know if you can hear us. Sound. Of course, it would be a new season with no sound. Is that better? Let us know if you can hear us. There we go. Cheers, Matty. Right. Let's reset. Hello, Aaron. Good to see you. Graham, Nathan. Hello, everyone. Right, start again then, shall we? Bonjour, everyone. Welcome back to the Magpie channel for lineup predictions for a brand new season. The 2021-22 season starts on Sunday. Well, in fact, it starts tonight. Arsenal and Brentford. We're going to really be asked with that one. Obviously, it's football, brand new season. We're all a little bit excited, but it's Sunday that matters at St. James's Park against West Ham. We started there last year away, of course, a brilliant 2-0 win where we actually thought, this might be a good season. It was just days after signing Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser, and Jamal Lewis. The whole of last summer was absolutely lifting right up until the last week. Obviously, we only had signed Jeff Hendrick on a free up until the final week. The three signings through the door with 5-6 days, maybe 7 days to go before the season gave a little bit of optimism. Then that game, though, even Jeff Hendrick, that was probably Jeff Hendrick's best performance. If you look back on player ratings, we give him a 10, a goal and an assist. We thought, there it is. He's a free signing. Give the lad the benefit of the doubt. He might not be too bad. Yeah. He peaked first game, didn't he? Diego, yes. That's where we're going to start then. Joe Willock is finally, officially a Newcastle United player. News came through just about an hour or two ago that he signed a 6-year deal with £25 million to the club. Second record signing now behind Joe Linton in Newcastle club history. What a signing he is. Obviously, we can probably thank Joe Willock that we're still in the Premier League. Of course, last season for the absolute majority was awful. I think even up until the final month or two, I know I was saying 17th. As long as we finish 17th and stay in the Premier League, that's the best we can do at the minute. But I think Joe Willock had a little injury, didn't he? Then he was frozen out with the team. He was coming on as a super sub. Sean Longstaff was starting every game, and it was why is Joe Willock finally going to get a start? And he was getting a run of games, even off the bench, coming off the bench or starting lineup. 7 games in a row, scored goals. I think it's money well spent. We're going to cover it a little bit more detail later on. I believe there should be a video on the channel later on tonight by our Kendall. She's meant to be bringing you the Willock announcement video, getting her views on all that. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it. Obviously, the upsetting news is, obviously, this is lineup predictions. The news is that he wasn't registered in time. We had to have him assigned to the Premier League by midday today, which unfortunately didn't happen. So he is excluded from the West Ham game. He won't be free to make his debut next weekend away to Aston Villa. But we're all, that's one of them things. We'll move on from that. Obviously, it would have been great for him to be through the door, but he's not. I'm going to touch on another little transfer news before I get any further. Santiago Muñoz might be coming home. Not Muñoz, 18-year-old. I think he's a striker. I don't even know who he is. He's either a striker or a midfielder. I think he's literally what Santiago Muñoz was, a bit of an attacking midfielder. 18 years old, playing in the Mexican League for Santos Laguna. News today is that we're very close to signing him, as well as a French midfielder. I can't remember his name. Is it Camara? Could be a couple more signings through the door before the end of the window at the end of the month, which we need. Go back to Joe Willock. It's just the same side that just survived last season, really, innit? Obviously, Joe Willock helped massively in that. Wilson, Sir Maximin, even Darlow for the start of the season. I think Richie towards the end of the season, they all played contributing factors, but Willock was the key one. But it's no further forward. We've lost Andy Carroll, which I know people aren't really that bothered about. Muto, a couple of others, Henri Saive, things like that. Irrelevant players really have left the club. And Joe Willock, who was here last season's come in, so it doesn't really feel like we're any further forward, although it is a huge signing. Obviously, I'm buzzing with it. I can't wait for him to finally get in next week against Villa, but yeah, what we're going to talk about this week, though, is who's in and who's out. Obviously, Joe Willock isn't available just yet, but Martin Dubravka and Karl Darlow, as I mentioned, either side of last season, Darlow for the first, Dubravka for the second, were crucial in us staying up. But unfortunately, they're both going to be out, which is a bit shits to the wind, really. Dubravka's out with an injury. Karl Darlow still recovering from effects of COVID, which I will just mention. Our very own Big Renty is currently suffering quite badly with that. We've had a couple of videos postponed over the last couple of days because he's not very well. So everyone wish the best to Big Renty, and hopefully he can be back soon. I think the crack for Sunday is I'll be at the game doing the vlog, and if he's well enough, there'll be a watch along on too. So we're going to have double coverage on Sunday. Obviously, he's excluded. Obviously, can't go to the game. Still isolating. Still very, very ill. So get better soon. But yeah, Karl Darlow. We thought at this point last season, going into the season, Karl Darlow was obviously going to get a lot of game time for the majority of the first half. We didn't really know how long Dubravka was going to be out for, but it was like a case of like, Dubravka's so big for us because the season prior, he was pretty much one of the single-handed ones to keep us alive in the relegation battle. So we thought, without Dubravka, Darlow's not good enough. Like, we're really, really going to struggle, but he proved himself worthy. He was absolutely incredible. I think things turned around quite well, and Dubravka came back in when it really mattered towards the danger end. Nothing against Darlow. He didn't deserve drops by any means, but I think the experience and the quality of Dubravka really is what we needed. So, but now they're both out, and Steve Bruce has announced that Freddie Woodman will start. So that's the first one on the team sheet that we're going to talk to when I get into the starting 11 shortly. Freddie Woodman's finally going to make his Premier League debut for Newcastle, first team in the league. I'm quite happy about it, to be fair. Like, it's been a kind of case, like, we've been talking about this for the last few years. Like, he's not really a kid anymore. I'm not even sure how old he is. I think he's maybe 23 now, maybe 22. Like, he's not a Ben. It's not like he's 18 anymore. He's earned his stripes for the last couple of years, playing for Swansea in the Championship. Wasn't able to get promoted. I know they've been pretty close over the last couple of years. And Scotty Parker quite fancied him for Bournemouth. It looked like it was a signed, sealed deal for him to go to Bournemouth on loan earlier in the window, but with Dubravka and Darlow both being out, sensibly Steve Bruce has retracted that deal and kept keeping him for another year, in which we might see plenty of him. Like, I hope he does do what Darlow done last season, because I like him. He's a really, really good keeper. It's been a long time coming that he's getting his shot. If he does well, we might need to look into deals for one of our goalkeepers, because including Dan Langley, we've now got 5 first-team goalkeepers. Langley, Woodman, Darlow, Dubravka, and Gillespie, of course. Mark Gillespie. So we've got 5 first-team goalkeepers. We don't need that many, so it might be a case of having to sell on Darlow. He's probably got better transfer value. Like, Gillespie is going to stay around to be the third-choice goalkeeper because he's not really going to be on high wages, is he? Probably not even selling for all that much. Whereas Darlow could go to any lower side Premier League team, any Championship team, and do a brilliant job. They don't really want to sell Dubravka. We get a lot more money for him, but that quality is there. So I hope Woodman does do well. I really do. But yeah, might have to look into if he is doing well towards the end of the window. Are we going to send him out to Bournemouth or Swansea or anyone else? Or are we going to sell Darlow, maybe Dubravka, maybe Gillespie? That's a conversation that we're going to have a little bit further down the line, obviously, depending on Woodman's performances. Going to jump into the comments, see what you guys are saying. Come on, you Maggies. Not to be negative, but Newcastle chose to sign Willock today to stop the negative atmosphere. Well, quite possibly. We know that Lee Charnley and Mike Ashley's been doing that for years. Like, I think Almiron was the same kind of thing. Just doing little things just to keep her happy just before the start of the season, keep the season tickets being bought. Yeah, I agree with that. Babaku Kamara. Thank you, Jake. That's whose name I couldn't remember before. Bid was rejected last time. Finley heard. We'll have to just keep an eye on that one. What are the COVID procedures for Sunday for under 18s? I don't know. I'm not really too sure about that one. I'm not the guy for that. I'm not COVID keg. Shelvatron, obviously Bruce got his hands on the Goal DVD, quite possibly. Hey, it's a good film. If you haven't seen Goal, what have you been doing for the last 15 or 20 years, however long it's been out? What a film. I just watched it a couple of weeks ago. It's absolutely better. We desperately need another midfielder. Yeah, if it's Kamara or someone else. We lost on was it Samuri? Is that how you pronounce his name? Samuri that signed for Leicester earlier in the transfer window. I'm sure we'll put in like a 35 million bid in or something like a year or two ago for him that was rejected. I think we were linked with him in the last window. Never got that over the line again. And he's gone to Leicester for 17 million. Obviously, for him, it's probably a better move. Obviously, Leicester push for Europe. They want to get top 4. They can quite easily get top 6. Leicester, they're a brilliant team. And they've gotten him for 17 million. Like, that's levels. Like, that's why Newcastle need this takeover, because we just can't attract players. Like, I think it was Samuri that actually rejected Newcastle. I think Ren accepted the deal. Was it Len or Leon? Ren? Someone, whoever he played for. Nice? Someone remind us who Samuri played for. One of the French teams, but I'm sure they accepted the deal. It was meant to be about 35 million, but he rejected Newcastle because he simply didn't want to come. And he's the other one I was thinking of. Thank you, Jake. He's Swedish, 22-year-old Swedish lad, I think he is. Right, get back into the comments in a bit. Gonna go back into my video. Where was I up to? Right. Oh, yeah, so Dubravka and Darlow are both out. Woodman's going to start, and the only other absentees are Paul Dummett and young Elliot Anderson. They're the only ones excluded, so we've pretty much got a full team squad. Elliot Anderson's obviously still on the fringe, and minus goalkeeping situations. Paul Dummett's the only outfield player unavailable for Sunday's game, obviously with Joe Willock as well. So pretty much got a full squad, plenty to choose from. We'll see how long that lasts. It's usually the case with Newcastle by about Christmas time, where we've got an injury list longer than the first team fit list. West Ham have got a couple out, though. Defensive pair Masuaku and Ogbonna are both out, which is good news for us. The more injuries they get, the better. They have signed Craig Dawson on a permanent deal, though. He was on loan from there. Was it the second half of the season or the full season from West Brom? Can't remember. But Craig Dawson's signed now and is available. They've also got the goalkeeper Areola in on loan. He spent a loan spell with Fulham last year. So they've got goalkeeping options. As far as I'm aware, I think Fabianski's fit, and he's got Areola for competition now. Both good goalkeepers, to be fair. I like Areola. Obviously, wasn't enough for Fulham to stay up last year, coming from PSG, as they've got about 9 first-team goalkeepers. I say we need to sell one because we've got 5. They've got about 9. They need to sort that shit out. But obviously, West Ham, touch on them before I move on. Obviously, what a season they had last year, finishing 6th, pushing for top 4 for the majority of it too. Would have thought that at the start. I tipped them for relegation. I didn't think they were good enough. The signings they made, I didn't think were good enough. Didn't have any faith in David Moyes. Never rated him as a manager, but fair play to them. Pulled it out the bag. I think David Moyes deserved manager of the season last year. Unfortunately, didn't get it. Obviously, Pep got it because he won the league, but that's just kind of automatic. Usually the one who wins the league gets manager of the year, but Moyes should have got it for me. They have no Jesse Lingard, though. He was a key player for them in the second half of the season in the push for the top 4. Had an unbelievable spell. He's back at Man United and back in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans. So that's good for us. He's not there. He scored against us at St. James's towards the latter half of last season in a 3-2 win for Newcastle at St. James's Park. We're 2-0 up. I'm sure it was at half-time. We're 2-0 up. Then typical Newcastle, backs to the wall, defend this 2-0 lead. Conceded 2 goals, one of them from Jesse Lingard, and it was our Super Joe Willock with the winner towards the end. But yeah, they've continued that going into pre-season. I've just read today that they've had 7 pre-season games and unbeaten in all of them, including wins against newly promoted Brentford, Celtic, and Champions League and Serie A outfit Atalanta. So yeah, been doing pretty well. Was it like 4 wins and 3 draws or something like that against decent opposition as well. But we did do the double over them last season. That 3-2 win at St. James's, the 2-0 win away, even though they finished 6th, we've done the double over them. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got written down for the build-up to the game. Gonna check back into your comments before I go into my lineup. We'll have a little think. Lille Samure played for. I can't remember. It was one of them French teams. They all just came to my mind. Was it Rennes, Lyon, Nice? I don't know. One of them. Impatiently, Bruce thinks we'll get if we're fucking not getting into Europe. We'll do a review. Obviously, let's say we've had a couple of videos delayed with Renty B and Ill. We'll end up doing a pre-season preview, I'm sure, in the next week or two when he's better. But I think Joe Willock said himself, he wants it to be top 10. Like, that's where we deserve to be, and then push on from there. That's where we should be, we deserve to be, but never going to be under this regime. Obviously, with Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce, top 10's ambitious, to say the least. What do you make of Sean Longstaff to Everton? In all honesty, I'd quite like to see it. I'm not really that bothered, to be fair. Like, Rafa got the best out of him. That's where we literally seen the best out of him. Like, the second half of Rafa's final season, brought him through, gave him that first team push, and he was unbelievable. Flies can piss off. Linked with, I think it was like a 50 million move to Man United that summer after I think he only played about 18 games towards the end of the season, second half of the season, because he got injured towards the end. He was out for the last month or two. He only played about 18 first team games and linked with 50 million pound moves. So Rafa knows how to get the best out of him. It'd probably do them well to link up with him, but we'll see. We're 2 or 3 players away from having a decent team. I agree. Like, I think on paper, our starting 11 and the odd couple flowing over onto the bench are really, really good. Also, I'm missing is managing direction. Obviously, we've got Graham Jones for a full season this year, which hopefully he can play a big part of. We've seen it in the second half of last year, and with England in the England setup, got to the first final since 1966. So you can see the impact of Graham Jones. But it's just the fringe players, like the bottom end of the squad. We've getting a lot of dead weight this summer. Like, since January, we got rid of Rolando Aarons. We're getting rid of Ashraf Lazar, Henri Saive, Christian Atsu, Yoshinori Muto, Andy Carroll. But yeah, there's just improvements to be made. If we can get through one of them midfielders like a Kamara or the Swedish lad, I'm not really that bothered about Sean Longstaff. And I think Matty needs a conversation as well, because where's his future? I don't think he's got one. Now, Willock's through on a permanent, and if we sign one of the others, Matty's never going to get a game. Never. He didn't even when there was a space there. He lost his place to fucking Nabil Bentaleb a couple of seasons before. So Matty hasn't got a future as far as I'm concerned. I wish he did. I would love to see him play first team. There's nobody more I would like to see in the starting 11, but just being truthful, I just don't think Brucey sees a future in him. So he's better off going out on loan. I want to see him get experience because he's still only like 20, 21. He's still very young. If he can go out on loan to like a championship team, let Wayne Rooney take him to Derby or Reading or someone like that, Bournemouth, I think he'd do really, really well, and we can prove like he'd be like a Freddie Woodman. Give him a couple of years out on loan, bring him back when he's like 23, bit more experience. He could be great, but at the minute, loan, sell, it doesn't really matter because his future's not here, I don't think. Great to see Woodman make his debut. Rather say Matty, as I just said. Yeah, absolutely. Right, so starting 11 then. Let's get into it. Obviously, Freddie Woodman already touched on that. Steve Bruce confirmed earlier in his press conference today that Freddie Woodman will be making his Premier League debut for Newcastle. Premier League debut overall, I think it is. Obviously, with Darlow and Dubravka being out. We'll get into the back three. We've got Captain Lascelles back, who missed a large portion of last season towards the back end, along with Federico Fernandez, who's an absolute stone wall at the back for us. I'm pleased he came back because his contract ran out in the summer, and for a while it seemed like it wouldn't be getting renewed, but thankfully it did. Along with Kieran Clark, who, that's a prediction on a personal level. I'd maybe rather switch Fernandez onto the left-hand side and bring Fabian Schär. Well, it doesn't really matter which side they play, but Fabian Schär, I'd quite like to see Fabian Schär be brought in. Obviously, played a lot of game time, done well towards the second half of last season, and played for Switzerland at the Euros. And I was at the friendly, the Norwich game last week, and Kieran Clark was the weak link for me. He got caught out a couple of times. I know Brucey's a fan. I'm a fan of him. I just, at times towards the end of last season, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was Liverpool when we drew 1-1. They had Callum Wilson's stoppage time goal disallowed for offside or handball when it wasn't, and then Joe Willock saved it in that one again. He was awful in that game. I don't think he ever really recovered. The Norwich game last week, awful. But I trust Kieran Clark. I'm a fan. I don't really mind. But personally, I probably would rather see Fabian Schär be given his spot. So we'll see about that one. But we will be playing 5 at the back, Brucey's favourite formation, with the wing backs. They're ever so reliable. Jacob Murphy and, for me, captain material, Matt Ritchie when Lascelles isn't out. Shelby got the captain's armband towards the second half of last season. But it was Matt Ritchie's influence that's seen us through, really. And even in friendly games like that Norwich game, he's just given everything, kicking the corner flag when he scored, just proper talisman, getting stuck in every tackle. It's that kind of passion and desire that you see from players like Matt Ritchie that, like, sometimes his quality, I've questioned his quality, particularly over the last, 2-3 years. Is he really Premier League level? Maybe he should go back to Bournemouth, but his quality's decent enough, and it's obviously that passion and captain leader mentality that keeps him in this team and makes you realize how actually important he is to us. And Jacob Murphy on the right hand side, so underrated. Like, I wanted him. I think last season there was going to be a discussion over whether it was going to be Jacob Murphy or Christian Atsu who was going to make the final 25-man squad. And it surprised me, actually, that Brucey made the right decision in dropping Atsu out of the 25-man Premier League squad and bringing Jacob Murphy in after having a couple of loan spells with Sheffield Wednesday and West Brom. He's been unreal since switching him. I think it was the Wolves game away, I think just before Christmas. Brucey started him at right back for the first time, and I was like, see, he lost his shit. Like, what is going on? Why is Jacob Murphy playing right back? But to be fair, he was man of the match that day. He's been unreal, and he's been an absolute revelation in this 5 at the back formation with Ritchie on the left-hand side. So as long as they're fit, we can play like this forever as far as I'm concerned. I've never been a fan of 5 at the back or 3 at the back, whatever you say it is, with the wing backs, but it's working at the minute, and it works for various teams at the minute. It is a formation that I think we've worked on. I liked what we've done when Graham Jones came in with the 4-3-3, but I just think for Newcastle, and as much as it kills us, and I like Rafa tried to push it, and it worked quite well for Rafa, the 5 at the back does work most of the time. I think, obviously, with Steve Bruce, it didn't. With Graham Jones, I think it brings a bit of a different dimension, especially, like I say, with Murphy and Ritchie. I think Graham Jones can get the best out of these players playing this formation. If sooner down the line it's not working and we're reverted back to 4-3-3, I'll be over the moon with that. But we'll see where it is for now. And then the other centre mids, obviously without Joe Willock, will be John Joe Shelvey and Isaac Hayden. No room for Sean Longstaff or Jeff Hendrick, thankfully. Good to see Isaac Hayden back. He obviously missed a large portion towards the second half of last season as well. Good to see him back. And obviously, Brucey loves Shelvey. He'd slap the captain's armband on him if Lascelles wasn't there. So there's a place for him there, which I think rectifies the need to bring in one of them centre mids. If it's obviously not going to be Matty, like I say, he's obviously the cheap option and a kid who's going to give you absolutely everything. Geordie boy who play for the club. If we get that Kamara in, or the Swedish kid whose name at the minute I can't pronounce, and I'm not even going to attempt it to insult the laddie. So, yeah, I do think there's a need. If it's not going to be Matty, I do think there's a need for another centre mid to come in, and especially if Sean Longstaff does end up going to Everton. So, yeah, that's my starting midfield for this week. Obviously, when Willock's back for the Villa game next week, that'll probably change. In the forward 3 then, and I don't really know which way around this is going to be, but I'm going to stick Miggy in, whether he's on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, or maybe down the middle as a false 9, which I do think, because we did kind of play a little bit that way against Norwich with Callum Wilson playing as the right-sided forward. We've got some Maximin playing as the left-sided forward, or vice versa. Like I said, they can switch up. It doesn't really matter. And I never would have fancied this in the slightest until Graham Jones came in. I remember that first game against Everton where we won 2-0 and Wilson scored both goals in that game. I was like, Wilson's playing on the right-hand side and Miggy's playing like up front. It's like, has he lost his mind? Like, what is going on here? But it worked really well up until Wilson's injury. It was obviously going to be the forward player wearing that number 9 shirt. Can't wait to see Wilson wearing that number 9 shirt at St. James's Park with the fans there. But yeah, like I say, that could change up. I think Wilson could play on the right-hand side with Miggy as the false 9. We'll see about that one. And I will just apologise for the graphics. They're a little bit out of date, but the club, I think they just had that media day yesterday or the day before, so the updated images with the updated kit aren't available yet. So as soon as they're done, probably some point during the week, I'll work on that and get them ready for the next available game. We'll have a look at them. Yeah, we'll have a look at the bench there, and then I'll check back into your comments. What we've got Mark Gillespie, of course, as I mentioned. He'll be on the bench. Maybe Dan Langley, but I don't really think there's any need to bring Dan Langley in. Gillespie's older and got a lot more experience if we need any cover on the bench. There's one player missing from this who I wasn't really too sure about. Like, I was either going to drop Sean Longstaff or Dwight Gale for him, but I've just fancied both of them to get in. And that's Javier Manquillo. Kraft maybe dropped, Shaw maybe dropped, I don't know. So Manquillo's the player on the fringe that I haven't got in my team today. Obviously, I'd like to drop Jeff Hendrick, to be honest. If I was going to pick any of them, it would be Jeff Hendrick. But just in Brucey's mind, this is a prediction, not necessarily what I would do. Manquillo hasn't got a place today. We've got Kraft and Shaw, who I said I would quite like to start in place of Kieran Clark. Jamal Lewis is a left wing back option. Sean Longstaff as mentioned. Jeff Hendrick as mentioned. And Ryan Fraser, I'd love to see him get back in when he's fit. He's unbelievable. I think he had a really good end of the season with Scotland. He's just injuries, just as long as he's fit. He plays really well. Like, we've seen it in short bursts last year, but then there was another injury, and then there was like COVID issues and international breaks and just things that really got in the way of Ryan Fraser last year. But he's got a good mentality. He had an interview during the week, and he says he wants to play for the team, whether it's off the bench or whatever. He just wants to help them win games, which is great. And obviously him linking up with Callum Wilson, that's why they were brought in together. And it was a nice little assist that he made in the Norwich game, nice little through ball into Dwight Gale. He says he's been playing more of like a number 8 role, a bit more of like an attacking midfielder's role during the summer. So we'll see how that one works out. Not really sure if there's any need for him when he's got such a good delivery. He's class out wide, putting the balls into the box for Callum Wilson to get on the end of. I don't know. We'll see how it works out, but it's not really something I would particularly like to see. We've got J7, Joe Linton on there in the number 7 shirt. I wouldn't say demoted, but moved his number 9 shirt onto Callum Wilson, obviously. And Dwight Gale. Couple of great goals in the Norwich game. I think he could be quite a big player for us this season. Obviously, with Andy Carroll, we haven't really got another striking option. We may use Almiron or Smaxman as a false 9 option. We could also use Joe Linton up front. But without Andy Carroll and no other striker through the door at the minute, and especially after them 2 goals against Norwich, I think Dwight Gale could have a big year for us. Obviously, fingers crossed and touch wood. I don't know if you can hear that. Touch wood that nothing happens to Callum Wilson. He's so crucial to us. I don't want to see any more injuries to Callum Wilson, but if that happens, then Dwight Gale has to step up. And we're waiting on the squad numbers announcement. That hasn't been made yet. One thing I noticed in the Norwich game last Saturday and from pictures in training during the week is that Dwight Gale wore the number 34 shirt and Jamal Lewis was wearing his number 12. So I think that's going to be a squad number change when the final squad's announced. It'll probably be announced before Sunday, to be fair, because they'll have to be put on the Premier League team sheet. So I was just kind of hoping that Jamal Lewis was kind of clearing the number 15 shirt out for Jetro Willems to come back, because that was his old shirt. We'll have to keep an eye out on that one. Why is the number 15 being vacated? Why is Dwight Gale wearing number 34 in training and in that last friendly game against Norwich? That's something to look out for. I'm not too sure about that one. But that's my prediction there, guys. I'll just put that back on the screen there for you, the full 11, while I read through the final comments there. Geordie's got his on there. He'd like to see Woodman, Manquillo, Fernandez, Lascelles, and Ritchie. That's a back 4 with Shelby, Hayden, Almiron, ASM, Fraser, and Wilson. Good team. I'd quite like to say that as well. But I don't know, as I said before, I just think that back 5's working. It's not necessarily what I like to see. Manquillo's a full-back. Is probably definitely a better option than Murphy. But Murphy as a wing-back, I think, is really, really valuable to us. Almiron runs around like a Duracell bunny, so I hope you can see Bruce starting him, yeah. Small bit of optimism from Jim going into the season. Just seeming that Willock did at the end of the season and boosted the rest of the squad. I think we could challenge for top. We can't challenge for top half. Like, we're going to do a league prediction. I say that's another one of the videos that's been cancelled over the Wales. But just looking through, like, I just don't think Crystal Palace have improved any. Not really sure about Wolves. I think Southampton's reduced dramatically, having losing Danny Ings and Vestergaard, and who's it? Aston Villa's after James Ward-Prowse as well. If he leaves before the window's gone, I can see Southampton getting relegated, to be honest. And you've got the others around where Wolves, have they improved? I'm not too sure. Burnley and Brighton, they haven't really improved for me. Then you've got the likes of Brentford, Norwich, and Watford. We can't push for top half. I see the likes of Leeds, Villa, Everton, Arsenal, them being around about the 10th place, like between like 9th and 12th. I think they're the kind of teams that I'm seeing to go around about that bracket. So we can't push for top half. I think we're just outside that. I don't think we're as good as any of them teams just yet, but we'll see how the season goes, of course. Since the Gale scored 2 against Norwich last week, watch Bruce start him over Wilson. You would never know. You don't know what Bruce is thinking. I'd love for us to get Rondon back here. Could be. We could do with some strength, experience, and of course some goals up front on the bench. I don't really see him starting week in, week out ahead of Wilson, maybe as the number 9 or Miggy or Sir Maximin as a false 9. But yeah, it would be good to get more depth in to replace Andy Carroll. Sharon is the best defender, but lacks consistency sometimes. Absolutely agree. Shaw pisses me off 9 times out of 10. Since his first season, where I think everyone voted him player of the season for us, he was unbelievable. I think we were knocking back bids from Man City and stuff after his first year. But since then, he's been way too inconsistent. I think towards the end of the season before, after lockdown, was it the project restart? After the restart, he was absolutely woeful, and I would have quite happily drove him back to Switzerland and dropped him off myself. But that last season, he proved valuable in a handful of games. Not overly consistent, but there was a handful of games where I thought he was really, really good, to be fair. Peter's a fan of Rondon. What a player. And I mentioned getting the player from goal at the start of the video, so you can go back on that and watch that. And that's the end of the comments for now, so I'm going to stop the video there. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. The first lineup prediction of the new season. That's it. I will be at the game on Sunday. So if you see, come say hello. There'll be plenty of videos getting done. Let's say Renty's going to be at home covering things back here, and I'm going to be at St. James's Park getting things done there. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. Make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on the push for 11,000 now. Not really sure how close we are. We're pretty close last I seen, only a few off, less than 100. So yeah, drop the like and subscribe button and keep an eye out for videos coming throughout the weekend, and probably a Joe Willock video from Kendall coming later on today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy yourself.